She heard her granddaughter arguing with her daughter in the living room, voices rising in intensity with each passing second. 71-year-old Deborah Green Davis had hoped to step in and diffuse the tension, but what began as a heated family disagreement quickly spiraled into a moment of unimaginable tragedy. By the end of that fateful December afternoon, lives were forever changed, leaving a family in pieces and a community grappling with disbelief. It was just after 4 p.m. on December 15th when the disturbing events began. According to police reports, Deborah was at home when she overheard a violent confrontation between her daughter and granddaughter taking place in the living room. Concerned about the situation, Deborah dialed 911, hoping that law enforcement could intervene and de-escalate the situation. However, things took an unexpected and tragic turn during the call. The 71-year-old grandmother, in an attempt to get help, was interrupted when her granddaughter, Larkea Elliott, allegedly lunged at her and struck her in the head and shoulder in an effort to take the phone away. The situation quickly escalated into a physical struggle as Larkea's mother, who had also been involved in the dispute, grabbed her daughter by the hair, resulting in a chaotic and violent confrontation between the two women. At this point, Deborah, in a moment of extreme fear and panic, retrieved a firearm from a nearby chair. In what police describe as a desperate attempt to defend herself or her daughter, Deborah fired a single shot, striking her granddaughter in the back. Larkea collapsed, and despite the quick arrival of emergency responders, she was pronounced unalived at the scene.
Police in Buckeye still trying to figure out what caused a grandmother to shoot and kill her adult granddaughter. Happened over the weekend.
And Fox 10's Lauren Clark has been following the very latest, and she joins us live with more on what she's learning. Good afternoon, Lauren.
Good afternoon. Certainly a very upsetting story. We have learned more details this morning, including how it all began. According to police paperwork, this all started with a fight. Police say that 31-year-old Larkea LaShawn Elliott was fighting with her mom inside her house when her grandmother then became involved. And we actually have a mugshot of the grandmother right here as well. Police say 71-year-old Deborah Elise Green Davis heard her daughter and granddaughter fighting in her living room and then began dialing 911 for help. But according to documents, Davis's granddaughter Elliott then tried to take the phone away from her and reportedly punched her as a result before tussling more with her mom. Now that's when officers say Davis brought out a handgun and shot her granddaughter in the back. And when first responders arrived to this home, this is off of 254th Avenue in Carson, they tried to help Elliott, but she died before being transported to the hospital.
The authorities were able to secure the handgun, and Green Davis was taken into custody. Larkea, the 31-year-old woman whose life was tragically cut short, was more than just a victim in a domestic dispute. She was a person with a rich and complicated life that deserves to be remembered beyond the circumstances of her death. Born and raised in Arizona, Larkea was known for her resilience and a strong sense of purpose. Growing up, she had always been determined to forge her own path. She was described by friends and family as someone with a kind heart, someone who was always ready to lend a hand or offer a smile, despite the challenges she faced in her personal life. Before her tragic death, Larkea had worked as a correctional officer with the Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation and Reentry. Her career at Lewis State Prison, which began in 2019, was a significant part of her life. Working in such a high-stress environment, where the stakes were high and the work demanding, Larkea proved herself to be a dedicated and hard-working employee. Those who worked with her during her time at the prison remember her as someone who never backed down from a challenge. Even in a profession often dominated by male colleagues, she earned their respect through her commitment and her ability to handle difficult situations with professionalism and composure. Her friends, who described her as both tough and compassionate, said that Larkea had dreams beyond her job in corrections. She hoped to one day further her education, and explore new opportunities. She was known to cherish family moments, despite the occasional tension that came with being in a complicated family dynamic. Larkaya loved spending time with her mother and her younger siblings, always trying to keep the peace and maintain bonds, even when life got difficult. Though her life was far from perfect, her aspirations and determination were evident to all who knew her. Tragically, her bright future was stolen in an instant, leaving those who loved her with an overwhelming sense of loss. Her death has left a lasting mark on her colleagues, friends, and family. Many have expressed shock and disbelief over the nature of the incident, describing Elliott as a vibrant individual with a bright future. Tragically, her life was cut short in a moment of domestic chaos, a moment that has now forever changed the course of her family's history. Deborah Green Davis, the woman accused of shooting her granddaughter, is a 71-year-old woman who, until this tragic day, was known to the community as a mother, grandmother, and perhaps a woman in her golden years, living in peace with her family. However, Deborah's life took a dramatic turn on that fateful Sunday afternoon. Police reports state that Deborah was in the midst of a personal crisis, caught between two warring family members, her daughter and her granddaughter. The grandmother's actions during the incident were described as a reaction to what she perceived as an escalating threat. After her granddaughter attempted to take her phone and physically assaulted her, Deborah Green Davis was reportedly terrified and, in a moment of fear and panic, made the decision to use her handgun. When questioned by investigators, Deborah admitted to firing the shot that killed her granddaughter, but explained that she did not believe that Larkaya had intended to kill her mother during their altercation. Deborah's actions have left both her family and the community grappling with the reality of the situation. Many struggle to understand how a grandmother, someone typically seen as a nurturer and protector, could be involved in such a violent act. Deborah was taken into custody by Buckeye police and was charged with second-degree murder. A bond was set at $500,000.
Good morning, ma'am. May I have your name and date of birth?
My name is Deborah Elisa Green Davis.
Is your date of birth June 9th, 1953?
Correct.
All right. We are here today on Superior Court in new case. You were arrested on allegations of murder in the second degree, which is a Class 1 felony. I will find probable cause, and I will appoint you an attorney. I'm setting a status conference on December 23rd at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on December 26th at 8:30, both in the downtown Superior Court. I am going to issue a cash bond today in the amount of $500,000. That does mean you can use a bonding company. Bonding companies are going to set their own terms on cash bonds, but you'll have access to the bonding companies when you get back to custody. If you do post that bond, I'm also ordering that pretrial services supervise you in the community and that they install an ankle monitor on you prior to your release. If you do post that bond, I'm also ordering that you not return to the scene of any alleged crime, no contact with any alleged victim, complainant, or witness, no contact with the arresting officers, no weapons, no drugs without a valid prescription, and no driving without a valid driver's license. This will all be in your paperwork. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Not a problem. Grab that paperwork from the officer, and then they'll take you back out to process.
Okay.
I'll take you back out. Okay?
Okay.
On your legs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The emotional and psychological toll of this event has been profound, not just for Green Davis, but also for those who knew and loved Elliott. As more details about the shooting in Buckeye emerged, a twist to the tragic story began to surface, pointing to deeper family tensions that had been brewing long before the fatal confrontation. Investigators started to uncover hints of a complex and tumultuous family history, one marked by secrets and unresolved conflicts that may have played a role in the violence that unfolded on December 15th. Sources close to the family hinted at a history of strained relationships between Deborah, her daughter, and her granddaughter. While many believed the altercation that led to Larkaya Elliott's death was a spontaneous outburst, others began to wonder if there were underlying unresolved issues that had been festering for years. Some local residents suggested that Deborah and her daughter had a rocky relationship, with decades of suppressed anger and frustration between them. The mother-daughter relationship, it seemed, had always been turbulent, and Larkea, caught in the middle, may have struggled to balance her loyalty to both women. The police department was quick to respond to the scene of the shooting. Upon their arrival, officers first encountered Deborah's daughter, who had exited the home without incident and was detained. Officers then proceeded inside the residence, where they found Elliot, unresponsive and suffering from a gunshot wound. Despite life-saving measures administered by first responders, Larkea could not be saved. Deborah, still in the home, was immediately detained. The handgun used in the shooting was recovered, and Deborah was arrested without further incident. During the investigation, authorities learned that the incident was a result of domestic violence, involving not just the granddaughter, but also Deborah's daughter. The family conflict appeared to have been a long-standing issue that ultimately boiled over into violence. Deborah was later booked into jail on suspicion of second-degree murder. She was interviewed by investigators, and it was reported that she claimed to have acted in self-defense, fearing that her granddaughter's actions could have led to harm. While it remains unclear exactly what triggered the confrontation, police noted that this was a domestic violence situation and that domestic violence often escalates quickly, especially when firearms are involved. The Buckeye community was left stunned and bewildered by the news of the shooting. Residents who had known the family for years struggled to process the fact that such a violent act could have occurred in their quiet, suburban neighborhood. Many of them spoke to reporters, expressing their disbelief and sorrow. One neighbor was quoted saying, "A 70-year-old grandmother shooting and killing her granddaughter. I mean, that doesn't happen in this neighborhood. Come on." Others were similarly shocked, unable to fathom how a family could descend into such chaos. As one local resident put it, "This is not the kind of thing you expect to happen here. We're all just so shaken." This sentiment was echoed by law enforcement officials, who stressed that while domestic violence is unfortunately common, the extreme nature of the violence, combined with the ages of those involved, made this case particularly disturbing. The shooting has left the community grappling with difficult questions about family dynamics, conflict resolution, and the devastating impact of violent decisions. As the legal proceedings continue, the case has raised numerous questions about domestic violence, the role of firearms in family disputes, and the mental and emotional toll of such extreme situations. For Deborah Green Davis, the emotional consequences of her actions are likely to be lifelong. Not only is she facing serious criminal charges, but she must also live with the knowledge that her actions resulted in the death of her granddaughter. For Larkea Elliott's family, the pain of losing a loved one in such a senseless and violent manner will undoubtedly linger for years to come. Elliott's mother, who was present during the incident and was reportedly involved in the altercation, is likely to struggle with the trauma of losing her daughter while simultaneously facing the devastating consequences of the fight between family members. This tragedy serves as a sobering reminder of how quickly tensions can escalate within families and how violent behavior can quickly spiral out of control. It underscores the importance of conflict resolution, communication, and the need for support when family members are facing difficult challenges. Domestic violence, whether physical or emotional, can have devastating effects on everyone involved. The death of Larkea Elliott is a tragedy that has forever altered the lives of her family, friends, and the community of Buckeye, Arizona. What began as a typical family dispute escalated into a deadly confrontation, one that ended with the loss of a young woman's life and the arrest of a grandmother who, in her own way, had hoped to protect her family. The legal proceedings will determine the full extent of responsibility for this act, but no matter the outcome, the emotional scars from this tragedy will likely remain for years. As this case moves through the legal system, it is a stark reminder of the potential consequences of unresolved family conflict, the volatility of domestic disputes, and the devastating toll that violence can take on all those involved. It is a story of family, of tragedy, and of the complex emotional and psychological factors that can drive individuals to make decisions that forever change the course of their lives. The people of Buckeye, like the rest of the nation, are left to reflect on the profound consequences of this senseless loss of life. If you or someone you know is experiencing family conflict or domestic challenges, remember that help is available. Don't wait until tensions escalate. Reach out to local support groups, counseling services, or crisis hotlines for assistance. Open communication and early intervention can make a difference. Let's work together to create safe and supportive environments for everyone. If you found this story meaningful, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content that raises awareness and promotes understanding.